Ben Shapiro, who apparently was heartbroken by the results in California. He's really upset. Let's tune in.
So on a national level, why should we care about California? Because what it actually presages is not just politics in California. What it presages is a question, whether we actually do want to remain part of the same body politic. If we do want to remain part of the same body politic, we're going to have to construct a system of a federal governance in which Texas can be Texas and California can be California. However, California has to let Texas be Texas. And herein lies the rub, because the federal government has no interest when run by Democrats.
That is the current system that we operate in now.
Well, I don't understand how California could presage a recall in California. That is about California voters only, right? It's not like the federal government came in and said, we're not going to allow this recall.
Oh, well,
how that presages some problem for Texas to be Texas. But
Biden says that Florida has to be California and Texas has to be Montana. He's already said this already.
I also feel like we had a lot of this fight about, the federal government and the states. I feel like that question was sort of resolved 130 years ago, was it?
Well, clearly he's trying to take that up again.
50 years? All right, but yeah, go back a little bit, Bradley, and let's
the states' rights stuff is so lame and played out. But
same body politic. We're going to have to construct a system of a federal governance in which Texas can be Texas and California can be California. However, California has to let Texas be Texas. And herein lies the rub, because the federal government has no interest when run by Democrats in allowing Texas to be Texas. They would like Texas to be California. And if that's the case, what you're going to end up with is a fairly ugly split between states that wish to be left alone and states that wish to run their business from the top level of the federal government. I think this is why you're hearing so much talk these days about a quote-unquote civil war, or talk about secession, or talk about the country breaking apart. It's a serious question. Whenever you form a body politic, which is what happened at the founding and what happened again in the aftermath of the Civil War, if you form a body politic, you have to decide whether you wish to remain part of the same country. And if so, what common rules can you hold at the top level that everybody can agree to? Well, if the basic notion of American government is that the federal government's going to make all the rules and it's just going to be a struggle for the power of the one ring, then this country is not going to last this way. It is just not.
Or the rings.
And maybe then the best hope for a lot of conservatives and maybe for a lot of liberals, depending on who's in control of that federal government, is a friendly separation. That is what that foresages. Okay, not that California is the wave of the future, but that California and its polarization is the wave of the future. And that we're going to get, I promise you, in the aftermath of this, real estate values in Florida are going to go up. Real estate values in Arizona, in Texas, in Nevada, they're going to go up because Republicans are going to continue leaving. And maybe that's what the California politicians want. So be it.
They've been saying that forever, that there could be a mass exodus from blue states.
Jumbled.
Yeah.
And he's saying California's not letting Texas be Texas because California voted not to recall their governor. He's just upset because the Republican Party has cratered there, because when they had their opportunity, which they had multiple opportunities, they've been rejected. They got rejected because Pete Wilson was a xenophobic racist. They got rejected because Arnold Schwarzenegger's BS about, responsible governance and the way that he was talking about spending, it turned out to be a complete canard and BS. They've failed. They have failed over and over and over again in California. And this is not my assessment. This is the assessment of the people in California. There's not 2/3 Democrats in California because, millions of Republicans moved to Texas. That's not what happened. Texas, incidentally, is not getting redder.
We must have missed the first part of his segment in which he claims that there was some sort of federal interference. Like, maybe Biden campaigning for Gavin Newsom means that he is like, these blue states are the proxy of the radical Biden government, and then the rest of the red states want to just go about their own business. He's like litigating the Federalist Papers all over again. What a bore.
I think it is honestly just about like, how can I generate some talk about the Civil War? How can I get into this? How can I get into where all the action is, but not walk in the same door as the other people? That's basically, I think, what's going on.
Right, because
there.
this is his this is his creative spin and his creative take on this, even though we hear every year some right-wing pundit talk about secession.
Oh, my God. I mean, look, there's...
And we hear them talking about, like, this false premise of which states are operating as their own governing body with states' rights and which ones aren't. We don't hear peep about that when there's a Republican in the executive branch.
Well, I hear if Ben Shapiro is really thinks that there's value, or any conservative talkers thinks that there's any value in red states seceding, here's the first thing they should be doing. They should be advocating for a return of all federal tax dollars that they get. That would be step one. Return those federal tax dollars so that you can show your people and the rest of the people of the country, like, we don't need the federal government.
Well, they do that, but only for extended unemployment for their citizens.
That's right. They'll cut that off.
The other stuff they'll keep.
Right. That's a good point. Folks, there's more of what you've just saw where that came from. That's if you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you. Really, thank you.